Hello, my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. Well, this is the first time I've done this. This is collaboration with both of my channels, the Mystical Fortunes and the Mystical Fortunes Mystery. So welcome one and all. Thank you all for being here. Today we're going to talk about, we're leaving a 2025 or 2025, which is a 9-year, and we're going into 2026, which is a 10 or a 1 year, right? You always reduce it down to 1. Now, so what does that mean? Well, a 9-year is completions. Everything's in a 9 cycle, right? Once you get to 10, you're back to 1 because 1 plus 0 is 1. You always reduce to single digit. But because there's a 0 there with that 10, you're carrying all the experience that you had from the previous 9 years is all wrapped up in that 0. So how can tarot explain this a little bit better to us? So I pulled the 9 major arcana, the 9 tarot. I pulled the ones, with the aces, the 10s, and other cards you may not consider are 1s or 10s. And let's go over them. So the Hermit. Well, we can see the Hermit. He's in the winter of his life. He's a 9. And he carries all this knowledge and all this information with him. You can tell he's an older man. He has lived through it all. He is in the winter of his life. He is completing this life cycle. So that's part of what you could read into the Hermit. And he's decided to turn his back on the world and, like a cat, go off to a corner and go to sleep one day and not wake up. So that's the Hermit. So he has amassed all this information. He's also the sage, and you can't become a sage until you are in the winter of your life and you've accumulated all of this information. So that's a 9. So you could read that into the Hermit card, that it's a completion. It's an end of a cycle as well as a long life cycle. All right. Then we have the Moon, and the Moon is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. So it's a 9 card. It's also a completion. And if we know anything about the Moon card represents Pisces. And Pisces is the last zodiac, the last sign of a zodiac. It completes the whole cycle of the zodiac. By the time you get to Pisces, you've gone from Aries all the way to the end of your cycle. So that's another thing we can look at when we look at the Moon card. There's, of course, other things that go into the Moon card, like illusions and covering things up and whatnot. But we can also consider the Moon cycle as the end of another overarching cycle, because it is the Pisces card. I know that's really confusing to some people. They're like, the High Priestess represents the Moon, but the Moon card doesn't represent the Moon. It represents Pisces. I know it's kind of a convoluted thing, but it is what it is. I don't make the rules. I just play the game. So we're coming to an end of a cycle. All right. And also the eclipses are cycles as well. So it's a 9. It's the end of a cycle. You may not like what's happened or what's going to continue from here. You can tell the Moon is kind of grumpy. It's actually covering up the sun, so that's why it's illusions and veiled and all those other things. But we're not here to talk about the Moon. But with the Moon card being 18, which is a 9, and it's the Pisces card, you can consider the Moon card as an end of a cycle. All right. All right, so here's the 9. This is what we're coming out of right now. 2025 is the 9, in case you've missed it. 2 plus 2 plus 5 equal 9, okay? And it's single digits, so we don't have to reduce it. And here it is. So at the end of your 9 cycle, this is also retirement, the end of, working hard. You should have accumulated some assets at this point. You should have learned your lessons. You could perhaps finish something up. It's showing you that, if you followed all the rules and worked hard, at the end of this 9 cycle, you should have accumulated a lot of funds. You've had investments, and now possibly retirement. All right. So here's another 9, and this is awards. Whenever I see this, I think of like Academy Awards all on a shelf. But this is also, and the reason why this can sometimes be the smug card. Look at the difference in these 2 9s. She's very accomplished, but she's very proud of what she's done. Some of the it could kind of almost be hidden wealth, hidden accomplishments, hidden. You're very much in control of your life. That's what the falcon is there. Very much in control, but you're ready for the next cycle. Here come the grapes, right? So, you're at the end of the harvest, but you know what? You're ready for the next cycle because you turn these grapes into wine, and that's a whole new cycle. Whereas here you've accumulated much, but in a much more smug way, and possibly gluttonous. So what do you look like at this point? Did you eat too much? Did you drink too much? A little bit. Did you accumulate too much? Are you, just really kind of smug, or because you've got all your accomplishments on display, but nobody sees behind the curtain what it took to get to those accomplishments, but you're still more than willing to be smug about what you got and your wishes coming true. You worked hard. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you were kind of a scammer. Maybe yeah, there's some way you got all of these awards and you're showing them off. This is the person who has the big house and the fancy car, um, and the Rolex watches, and really likes to show them off. Whereas this person has hidden wealth, and you may think, they have time to go for long lunches. See, they accumulated more hard assets, whereas this one accumulated hardware, if you know what I mean. Now, here's the 9 of Swords, and this is the mental part of the last 9 years. Perhaps you didn't reach any goals. Perhaps you're in a worse position than you are now when it first started. Perhaps you didn't look after your mental health. Perhaps you're all burnt out. These last 9 years just kicked you in the ass, and you worked really hard, but you were not lucky enough, like the 9 of Pentacles, to have a whole bunch of assets or even hardware showing off. Perhaps you've lost all your money, everything you've put into the last 9 years. Perhaps you've lost your marriage, and now you're rethinking. Oh God, how can I go on? Like, I need a break from this. Here's the 9 of Wands. It shows you're embattled. And these last 9 years have taught you very important lessons. And you're looking over your shoulders because you've put up your boundaries and you do not want to learn these lessons ever again. Here you are in the 9th year. You're ready to put that final one up there. But you've learned your lessons. Absolutely learned your lessons with him looking back and the bandage on the head. Maybe some of the lessons were embarrassing. I mean, look at the difference here. This one's crying and not wanting, not knowing how to get out of this mess. And this one is embattled and is learning his lessons, watching over his shoulders. I'm never going to make that mistake again. Whereas this one is a hopeless feeling of these last 9 years have been terrible on me. And I just don't know which way to turn. I've lost my business. I've lost my spouse. I've lost everything, and just really not knowing where to turn. Whereas perhaps this fellow, the previous 9 years was here. And so he's learning all his lessons, putting up his boundaries, and he's going stronger into his number 1 year. So that's the 9. This is what we're just leaving. Where are you in all of that? Where are you? Are you coming to the winter of your life? Are you finishing up a big cycle? A big, you don't have to be Piscean, but does your birthday end in a 12? So, are you 24, 36, 48, 50, I mean, 60, 72? Because you would be in that cycle and starting a whole new zodiac cycle all over again. Are you ready to retire? Are you finishing up that cycle? Have you accumulated? Have you done your investments properly? Have you done well, and are you kind of smug about it? Which is fine, no judgment, just where are you? Or are you like, oh my God, I can't wait for this cycle to be over, but I really don't know how to go forward? Or did you learn a lot of really hard lessons? And here's the thing, you have learned them. You are looking back and going, yeah, I learned, I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. And you're embattled, but you're standing there and you cannot wait till the end of this 9th year to put this wand up and close the year. So now let's look at the 1 year we're going into. While we are back in the cycle, here's the infinity. Here's the cycle is infinity. It just goes and goes. It just repeats, 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 repeats. We're back to number 1. So what are you going to create? You've got all fresh new tools, right? You got all fresh new tools. What are you going to create? What are you going to ask of the universe this year? What are you going to create? This is the creation year, number 1. So this is when you make your plans, your goals, your intentions. This is what you do in a 1 year. All right. Now, one of the things I haven't mentioned is where you are in your personal year, right? This is the overall for worldly events. Okay, so you have to look and see where you are in your personal year. But for overall, so now you think, okay, this is a starting year. We're closing up some things. We can even look at it this way, like this Hermit and the moon cycle. Well, the US is going to their Pluto return. So they're starting all over again. Right? So they are in a very fresh new year, you could almost call. So you have to look at it this way. Is this a time, now I'm not giving you any kind of financial advice or anything like that. Is this a time to collect your assets? Are some of the things going on in the world, Russia, Ukraine, is that, not knowing how to end it? Or is this Russia and Ukraine? Or is what's going on in the Middle East? Have they learned their lesson? Or is this the Middle East, right? This smugness, is this some of the big billionaires that have all this money and whatnot? And, what happens to that afterwards? So that's why, you have to kind of look at it. But even though you might have a different number for your personal year, you have to remember these energies in society affect you as well. All right. So this is a great time to create something. So perhaps, you do live in a fear-based world. Maybe you want to create a happier, nicer place to live just by, looking at the positive aspects of life. Wheel of Fortune, this will be a great year for some things will go up, some things will go down. All right. This is a great year, though, and it's interesting. We have Jupiter going into Leo, which is fantastic. And it's interesting because Jupiter going into Leo, and Leo is the sun, and the sun is another card for this year. This will be a great year to have a baby if you're so inclined. I think it's going to be a really good year for markets. I really do. I think it's going to be a great year for gold. The sun represents gold. Jupiter represents tin. Now, what's made of tin? Vehicles, I think. Anything like metal, any other kind of metals, we might see doing really well. Perhaps even silver, right? Even though we're going out of a moon cycle, right? This is why silver has done so well, because it's a 9. Silver has actually gone through the roof. It might continue to go through the roof until Jupiter enters the sun in, I think it's August. But anyways, it should be a good year overall for markets. Should be a good year overall for new inventions, for new things coming into our world. And like I said, gold, perhaps there's a really good chance for drought on a sun year, right? Like, where's the rain? Where's the rain? So anyways, it's a really good year for inventions. It's a really good year for making money, for making some kind of investments. But be careful. Some are snakes. Some do well, and others not. But it's a really good year to learn about money, and it's really good to start things as well. Overall, in worldly affairs. So now we look at the ones in the cards and look at they're all like offerings. A good year to start investments, like I said, with the Wheel of Fortune there, especially. The Wheel of Fortune is a 10, which is actually, I forgot to mention that 2026 is actually 10. 2 plus 2 plus 6 is 10, and then 1 plus 0 is 1. So this is very important. You might want to take a Wheel of Fortune card or photocopy or something and keep it nearby. Great year to do any kind of studying, any kind of, especially if you're studying any kind of investment, starting a business, that kind of thing. So, yeah, absolutely. I keep forgetting about that because I am a 10, so I do have Wheel of Fortune around a lot of things, and I forget that that to tell people that. So Ace of Pentacles, great year again, planting seeds. Planting seeds. Who knows? Buy one stock. You don't have to go into debt for it. Plant that seed and see how fast that grows for you. So lots of growth this year. Ace of Wands, take that idea and do something about it. Put some passion into something. You plant that seed, now you got to make it grow. You got to water it. So put some passion into something. Again, a great year to make a baby if you're in that age group of procreation. If you're thinking of having a child, this is a fantastic year to have a child. All right, Ace of Cups. So it's a great year to improve your health. Right. I always look at this as an aspirin. uh, right? And also you take the aspirin with a glass of water or some such thing. But it's a great year to have mental and physical and emotional health. It's a great year to fall in love. Again, we have more message here. All of these cards are actually pregnancies. Plant the seed, right? The seed comes out of the wand. There's the egg and the seed. There's the love that is needed to create it. There's the actual penis entry. Okay, enough. So it's a great year to fall in love, to renew love, to heal love, to body, mind, and soul healing, any kind of things like that. I think of healing waters, right? And that's why sometimes the Ace of Cups to me is healing more than an offer of love. All right. And then the Ace of Swords. I would definitely say this has something to do with being truthful with yourself. Also, words. This would be a fantastic year to watch your words. How do you say things? You always say things like, I'm so broke. Perhaps it would be better to say, that's not in the budget right now. Or one of my favorite things, when you look at something and it's outside of what you can afford. Let's say you're looking at a pair of jeans and they're $400. You're like, $400 for a pair of jeans. Rather than make yourself feel less than, you say things like, I wonder why they priced it at that. right? Now you're not blaming yourself. You're, making your mind think about something else other than I can't afford that. Because there's a lot of people who can't afford $400 jeans. A lot of people who can't, but there's a lot of people that's nothing for them, right? So when you look at it and go, that's too expensive, or who can afford that? You turn that around, and all you're doing is turning around your words and saying things like, I wonder why they priced it like that. Do you hear the difference? So this would be a great time, and especially here's your crown chakra. So to um, ask your higher self, to ask your intuition, how can I say this in a way that's more positive, right? Instead of saying I'm so fat, say, I'm I'm doing my best to start a health program or something, or it is what it is, and I'll work on it tomorrow. Right? It's just whatever your words. Watch your words, because your words will become manifest in year 2. All right. Other cards that people might not think of as ones are all the pages. They all are holding one thing. So this is messages of money. So there might be a lot of messages of money this year, right? Page of Wands, the media, the news is going to be very active this year for whatever reason. Page of Cups, we're going to hear a lot of surprising love stories this year. A lot of surprising love stories or healing stories as well. And then Page of Swords, the internet. This is the internet. This is my internet card. Page of Words. We might see a lot of changes in the internet this year. Now, pages don't necessarily always bring only good news. They can also bring some bad news, but we've already seen that the 1 year is really good for fortune, especially we're in a 10-year. And so we might hear there might be a lot of news, let's say about Bitcoin, right? Perhaps Bitcoin is going to be in the news a lot more. Page of Wands is just general good and bad news, but it's good and bad news that grows for a long time. It's not flash in the pan news. It's not, the news cycle at all. It might be something that sticks in the collective consciousness for a very long time. I'm thinking of things like the JFK assassination. That's still in our collective consciousness, right? Yet there's been other assassinations that have just come and gone. So I think this is going to be a huge news year. And same thing here. I think we're going to see a lot of surprising celebrity or love stories kind of things. And then Page of Swords, the internet's going to be huge this year. So is that censoring, right? Because the sword is cut off here. We don't get to see the full truth of things. So are we going to see a little bit more about AI, but we're not going to know the full truth of AI. So it's interesting because pages only show up on 1 year's. And then though whatever that news is that we see, the messages we see this year and then 1 year are going to carry over for the next, for the remaining 8 years in the cycle. So they actually hold the cycle. And you think about it, you think 9 years ago, we didn't have censorship. Nobody thought of censorship on the internet. Are you kidding me? It was the Wild West back then. Now, not so much. There's even laws about different internet activities and whatnot. All right. All right. And same thing with Bitcoin. If you go back 9 years, what was 9 years ago? 2016, Bitcoin still really wasn't, it just started to hear about it, really, just started to hear about it. And then if you went back to 2016, what was in the news then that is still in the news? Donald Trump. This actually really works. Donald Trump will be in the news for the remainder of my life, whether he's president or not. I mean, I have to go back, like what were surprising love stories or whatnot, or couples getting pregnant or makeup breakup kind of things. All right. So go back and have a look at some of this, and you'll be shocked how much of it is still in today's news. So now let's look at the tens. All right. And you have to remember tens are 1 plus 0. So we've carried all the lessons from the previous year, and we're bringing them with this year. Okay. The only time one is a pure one is on your birthday, your first birthday, and you're turning 1. That's the only time you have no 0 behind. After that, your whole life, you have a number after the 1. You're carrying information. All right, so if the 10 of Cups here is joy, successful completion, everybody's happy, and you think about the 9 of Cups, you're showing off your house and your wife and your children and your all the awards and whatnot, and you're carrying that into your next 9-year cycle, your successes that you've had. A lot of people say tens are completions. Well, yeah, that's completion of the previous 9 years plus a new start with that information from those 9 years. So you're on a roll. 10 of Cups, you're on a roll. There's a jackpot at the end of the rainbow here for you. This is, you've got the wife, you've got the kids, you've got the house, or you've got the husband, you got the land, everybody's happy. So that's telling me if you have 10 of Cups for your one for next year, I think we're going to see a lot. We're going to see an explosion of people wanting to be in families, make families, have children. Also, I think this is going to show us that housing is going to be okay in the 1 year. I think housing is going to be fine. It's kind of hidden there, so it still might be out of reach for some people. But if you do have a house, I think the housing market's going to be fine. All right. I think we're going to see more families things, more people having children, more families staying together, more traditional marriages. All right. All right. So here is big money again. Here's a 10, and we have the Wheel of Fortune, and we are in a 10-year. I think we may see many people in leadership positions retire. So, the king, for example, Buffett. I think Warren Buffett's going to retire next year. Perhaps we see Bill Gates stepping away. A lot of the old gatekeepers in some respects and passing it on to the next generation. We're going to see huge inheritances this year. We're going to see a lot of people retiring. Retirement's going to be huge. And I think we're coming to the end of the baby boomers. And that might be, we're going to see more people in retirement. We're going to see more seniors. We're going to see more transfer of wealth in inheritances, and things starting to go to the next generation. We might see more things about inheritance taxes, probate taxes and whatnot, because there is a big wealth transfer going on. And like they say, there's $1 trillion locked up in the baby boomers. And I think the majority of them are starting to turn, not majority, the first of them are starting to turn 80 soon. And the youngest of them are just 60. So I think we've got a lot of the next 9 years could be some of the biggest wealth transfers that we see. But I also think we are going to see a lot of the big billionaires, right? So it's a 10. So all these people made their billions in the last 9 years. I think we're going to see a lot of them retire. I think we're going to see a lot of people at the top of these legacy families either retire or pass away. or pass on their knowledge to the next generation. So that's something to look forward if you're looking at investments. What to look there. The people who are not set up for the next 9 years may face ruin this year. So you think about that. You think about P. Diddy or Ghislaine Maxwell. Is this going to be the, Rob Reiner's son? There's a lot of ruin also. And it's for people who I'm going to say they're not necessarily criminals, but they have not taken the previous 9 cycle and did something proper with it. You think about it's the 9 of swords. They're in bed. They're, they're crying like, oh my God, what have I done? Sleepless nights. I think this one cycle will be too much for them. It'll be overwhelming for them to carry on. We might see an increase in suicides this year. And this would go for the next, I'm going to say mostly this year. I think we're going to see a lot of criminals, a lot more people put behind bars. If you've done anything illegal in the last 9 years, like live somewhere illegally, this is not going to be your year. You know, I think the Ten of Swords is ruin, and it's because the previous 9 years, perhaps you got involved in drugs or drinking or gambling or some such thing that you just you weren't productive in any way, shape, or form. That would you be able to carry that over into the next 9 years. It's usually the 1 year the energy is too much to take. You don't have a foundation to stand on to start something fresh and new. So I think we're going to see a lot of that generally in society. Also, we could learn a lot about surgeries this year. There might be some new surgical procedures this year that develop over the next 9 years. All right. And then the last one, the 10. Now, the 10, this one, the reason I left this for last is because this depicts the 10 perfectly. It is we're moving forward, but we're carrying the last 9 years of our life. And sometimes that's a burden. But not all burdens are burdens. Like, so for example, if you were in school and you graduated as a lawyer, well, now you're a lawyer the rest of your life. You might not be a lawyer the rest of your life, but that's something that you will carry with you. This also could be health. So if you didn't look after your health, you might be going into the next 9 years with a disadvantage that you have to carry this extra health with you. This could be anything. Maybe you have debt. Maybe you're carrying some debt that you just didn't quite clear up. Like if you look at the 9 of Wands, so maybe you just didn't quite clear up all your debt. You learned your lesson not to get into debt, but you still are carrying a little bit of debt into your next 9 years. So you are carrying that debt burden. Could be a house mortgage, right? Everybody, what the heck? Or it's just things that you're carrying, but you have to carry them into the next 9 years. But they also are boundaries for you. They're also lessons learned. It's also things that you may want to carry into the next 9 years. Like, you just if you graduated this year, then the next 9 years, your burden is developing your career, right? So that is a big burden that you have. But this card depicts the 10 to me the best because it is all the other 9 years plus the 1 year you are carrying forward into the future. But what I like about this too is his head is down. He may not know what burdens that he's carrying, or he may be carrying some that he doesn't need to carry. Perhaps some of them he can put down so he starts fresh and new into the next 9 year cycle. So you have to think of that for yourself. Like society's going into a 9-year cycle, even if that's not your personal year. What burdens does society have that we're carrying forward? Well, we've got the worldwide illegal immigration. That's a burden on the taxpayer. We've got what are some other things? So just some different laws that we're carrying from the previous 9 years. Remember, it's the censorship laws, perhaps some investments. So generally, society will be carrying some of those burdens, and which ones of them are we going to be putting down? Some political. We got some political burdens. There's always questions about voting. There's all kinds of things. There's always something that we need to carry forward. And sometimes we know what they are, and sometimes we don't. So for 1 year, I think society's going to carry some of these things over. I think it might take a while, at least until year 2 and 3, that we can start to clear up the future, because that's the 3 of Wands, where you start to look forward to the future, that you've done some of your goals and plans and dreams and whatnot. So we have to decide what we're putting down and what we're moving forward, and just learn from the past. So when was the last 1 year? 2017. Yeah, 2017 was the last 10/1 year. So you can go back to 2017 and see what society was like back then, and see what was there that we didn't clear up, that now we still have to deal with. And I think, to me, that in my mind, that was the real start of a lot of the illegal immigration and asylum seekers, at least here in Canada. So I hope you enjoyed this, and see how you can apply it to yourself, to your investments, to perhaps what job you want to do. Uh, you know, Again, this isn't a personal reading unless it is your own personal year. It's just general what we can look forward to, and in 2026. Thank you very much for watching. Please take good care. See you online. Bye for now.